The year 2000 comes to a close with no clear Best Picture favorites such as American Beauty and no box office monster the size of Titanic, but there were more than enough outstanding films worthy of top 10 consideration. On this special edition of Ebert and Roeper and the Movies, we'll highlight some of our favorite pictures of the year and we'll run down our entire list at the end of the show.
Okay, let's start with the number 8 film on my list, and it's Pollock, directed by Ed Harris and starring Harris as the painter Jackson Pollock, who helped put abstract expressionism on the map and won fame by the way he put body language into his painting style. Harris is always convincing as Pollock the painter and Pollock the man.
I'm not sure I always get it, Jack.
I'm the only painter worth looking at in America. There really isn't anyone else.
I expect that's true, Jack.
This guy wants to make a film on me.
Why?
Well, you know, they made one on Calder.
Pollock doesn't deal in the usual cliches about artists, but is smart and observant about the way that art, criticism, publicity, and commerce are all involved in a successful art career. This is one of the best films I've ever seen about the agony and the ecstasy, especially the agony of being a great artist.
Yeah, and, you know, Jackson Pollock, the man, was a brute. He was almost inarticulate, except for when he worked on the canvas. And Ed Harris portrays that beautifully, and that's why Marcia Gay Harden's role is so crucial, because she's there to sort of help us understand the man as she's making excuses for him, defending him to other people who are just like, I don't even want to be around this guy.
Yeah, you know, I never had the feeling that I was looking at an actor. I always felt that he really knew how to paint. I know that he practiced a long time to try to duplicate Pollock's approach, his physical style, and it worked. It looked real on the screen.
Ed Harris never asks us to like Pollock, just to try to understand and appreciate him.
Yeah.
Okay, number 9 on my list is Castaway, with Tom Hanks undergoing a remarkable physical transformation as a Federal Express systems engineer named Chuck Nolan, who's stranded for more than 4 years on a South Pacific island. The soft-bodied Chuck becomes a lean survivalist who tries to maintain his sanity by engaging in conversation with his only companion. It's a volleyball he dubs Wilson.
I know. Yeah, I know it is 30 feet of extra rope. But I'm not going back up there.
Castaway takes us on a long and strange journey, and we don't really get a big Hollywood ending to satisfy us, but that's what makes it resonate more deeply. Now, of course, the island scenes are the most memorable, but I also appreciated the brackets on either side of the island scenes, which contain hints and messages about slaves of time and angels of hope. There's a real spiritual tone just beneath the physical muscle of Castaway.
Well, I like the movie, although it's not on my best 10 list, and the reason is I didn't like those bookends, especially the second bookend at the end of the film, because I felt that the resolution of one of the plot points was kind of inconclusive and unsatisfying, and then the ending was kind of frivolous. It seemed to me that if it had been an island story, instead of trying to, you know, begin and end elsewhere, it would have been more effective.
The more I think about it, the more I actually do like the way it resolved itself, although they could have ended it right when he got off the island, and then we could have had Castaway 2, the mainland years. Okay, coming up at number 7 on my list is You Can Count on Me, with Laura Linney as Sammy, a single mom, and Mark Ruffalo as her charming but unmotivated brother Terry. Just give this guy a chance and he'll definitely disappoint you. The sibling dynamic is captured with aching accuracy by writer-director Kenneth Lonergan, as in this scene where Sammy's enthusiasm for Terry's return is almost immediately snuffed out.
I've been unable to write on the account of the fact that I was in jail for a little while.
You were what?
Character-driven films like this that rely more on the weight of words and realistic acting than on typical story structure are sometimes called small movies. But the impact of You Can Count on Me is 100 times weightier than the slick manipulation of most so-called big movies, which hide their shallowness under the sounds of explosions and car crashes. Lonergan, Ruffalo, and Linney have teamed to create one of the best movies ever made about the often maddening but lasting bond between grown-up siblings.
I love this movie. I really got so involved in these people, and the interesting thing is it doesn't tie up everything with a conventional, tidy ending. It leaves some open, unresolved issues at the end, so you can walk out of the theater and you can talk about things like, does she eventually get back with Bob?
Right.
Or did he do the right thing in introducing the kid to the father?
Yeah.
And stuff like that, that the movie doesn't tell you what to think, or doesn't even tell you what it thinks. It says, this is life and it's messy.
You know, movies like this people never really talk about sequels to movies like this because they're so self-contained, but think about the characters, and wouldn't you love to know what happens to the brother character, to Mark Ruffalo's character, to Laura Linney, to the little boy who's sort of a precocious, wise kid. You know, what's going to happen to them in the next 4 or 5 years? I'd love to see them revisit this somewhere down the line.
Yeah, these are some of the most real people I've seen all year. Okay, the next film on my list, at number 7, is High Fidelity, a real charmer that also contained a lot of truth. John Cusack starred as the owner of a Chicago used vinyl record store who spends much of his time making lists of his ex-girlfriends and the rest of his time adding to those lists.
Why'd you dump me for Marco?
Marco just seemed to be a bit more glamorous, you know, more sure of himself. That's hard work.
Jack Black and Todd Luizzo played Cusack's employees, one loud, one shy, both filled up to here with opinions about every single record in the store. Director Stephen Frears did a wonderful job of linking a romantic comedy with these alternative lifestyles, and Cusack is always great.
Yeah, and I give Cusack a lot of credit for making this work. You know, the Nick Hornby novel, I like so much of High Fidelity. It was set in England. I was really worried about this thing being brought across the pond. It's going to be in Chicago, but they did a really nice job of being faithful to the book and adding some new things. And you mentioned Jack Black. You know, there are a lot of movies this year where people get up on stage that you don't expect to get up on stage, like in Duets and other movies like that, Coyote Ugly, where there's a little musical number. The best version of that all year is Jack Black when he sings, I think, Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye toward the end of High Fidelity. Talk about a show-stopping number.
You know, the funny thing about this movie being moved from London to Chicago is it turns out that people who work in stores like this live in a city of their own, and it's in their mind, you know. In a way, they're living in terms of sides and cuts and lists rather than and whether they're in England or in America.
They're outcast elitists is what they are.
Coming up, we continue our countdown of the best movies of the year.
The Best of 2000 is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. Try Raisinets in new, convenient, resealable bags.
Continuing our special program on the best films of the year 2000, number 6 on my list is The Cell, a film I thought was a terrific, visionary thriller, even though not everyone agreed, and that's for sure. The movie starred Jennifer Lopez as a counselor with a psychic gift who's pressed into service to use experimental equipment. Her assignment, get into the mind of a serial killer and find out where his latest victim is hidden before the victim dies.
In what world do you live in?
Carl, where's Julia Hickson?
No names.
On one level, the movie is a police procedural. On another, it's a psychological thriller. And on the third, it moves into fantasy, painting incredible mindscapes where Jennifer Lopez pursues her quarry through the thickets of his dreams, fears, and nightmares. The movie was original and ambitious. I never knew which turn it was going to take next, and I was involved all the way. The Cell, one of the year's best films, no matter what anybody says.
A lot of people disagree with us on this. But I agree with you when we first reviewed this. It didn't make my top 10 list, but it definitely would have made my second 10. It is original, it is ambitious, and I think it succeeds on most of those levels. The main story about the serial killer, it's a lot of Silence of the Lambs, a lot of Kiss the Girls, we've seen that thing. But the flight they take into the mind of this killer, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, is completely original. And it really, to me, it was stunning stuff where you just watched it and said, I can't believe what they're showing me here. Never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, this debut picture by Tarsem was really impressive because it shows him really ambitious, really trying to reach out and do a lot of different things stylistically and with his narrative. And it was stimulating. I didn't know where it was going to go.
Never saw anything like it before that or since then. Okay, my favorite political movies are The Candidate and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And now I'm going to put one other movie right up there with them. It's number 4 on my list, and it's The Contender, a multifaceted gem from writer-director Rod Lurie. Joan Allen deserves an Academy Award nomination for her performance as Democratic Senator Lane Hansen, who has been named to succeed the recently deceased vice president if she can survive the witch hunt spearheaded by a Republican congressman played by Gary Oldman.
Have you ever committed adultery?
No.
No?
I have not, no.
Madam Senator, you understand that you are under oath.
Yes, I understand that between the two of us, I'm the one that's under oath.
Oldman is also worthy of Oscar consideration, and the same goes for Jeff Bridges and his portrayal of a charismatic baby boomer president who's nearing the end of his second term and is obsessed with his legacy. Sound like anybody you know. But this picture ranks high on my list not because of its politics, but because of its achievement as an old-fashioned American drama with noble heroes and slithering villains squaring off in a high-stakes battle.
I love this movie, too, and it was the hardest title. It didn't quite make my best 10 list. It's number 11, I guess. I had it on. Then I had these movies, and I was, you know how it is when you get it. I couldn't leave the other 10 off. I don't know how I left this one off. Joan Allen should get an Academy Award nomination, and I really felt that it was an intelligent and sharp-edged thriller that kept me going all the way through, both with its politics and with its personal agenda.
I don't know if it was hurt or helped by all the political stuff that was going on this year. I just wish more people had seen it, and I hope they do seek it out when it comes out on DVD.
It's an awfully good film.
Absolutely.
Coming up next, more of the best films of the year 2000.
Where the hell are the drugs? Where are they?
Even with a running time of 2.5 hours, Steven Soderbergh's breathtaking Traffic doesn't have a single wasted moment. It's my second favorite movie of the year, but in a way it's really 3 films, each shot through a different colored filter. Michael Douglas plays a judge whose teenage daughter is in a crack-addicted freefall. Benicio del Toro is a Tijuana cop on a crusade to expose government corruption, and Catherine Zeta-Jones is a wealthy California woman who takes over when her drug importer husband is jailed and orders a hit on the star witness against him.
What are they doing?
They're arguing or something. They're going past me. I do not know. I think they're going back to the courthouse.
Few movies have captured the horrific world of narcotics with the ambitious scope of Traffic. It doesn't preach, it doesn't romanticize, though a speech by Douglas at the end comes close to doing both. But that's just a minor quibble about this masterpiece from one of our finest young directors.
It is a masterpiece. It's also very high up on my list, and the amazing thing about it is it just looks at the drug problem. It says, look at this situation we're in here, and drug laws are utterly irrelevant. Everybody gets all the drugs they want. They're fairly cheap. People are making millions of dollars, and the drug laws just work as a price support system, basically.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
I think it's important to note, too, though, although this is very serious and heavy subject matter, this is a very, very entertaining film. It works as a mainstream piece of movie making.
It sure does. Okay, the next film on my list at number 5 is George Washington, a film that doesn't follow a plot so much as weave an unforgettable mood involving some young teenagers during a warm summer in a lonely urban cityscape.
Hey, can I speak to Nudge?
No, you don't.
That's good. Anything you got to say to her, you can say it to all of us. Thank you.
Shut up, I'm like you anyway.
George Washington was directed by a newcomer, David Gordon Green, who shows an astonishing confidence and mastery of style. His film is like the classic Days of Heaven by Terrence Malick in the way it tells its story through indirection, so that although it develops in full view, we only gradually realize what the movie is really about. George Washington is one of those films you don't watch, you inhabit. It was the most impressive debut of the year.
Yeah, it was. It's not quite as impressive to me as it is to you. You've got it way up on your list here. But what I liked about it, you talk about these small and independent films. Yeah. This doesn't try to be tricky or showy or look at the digital camera work. It's just about the story and the characters, and very well.
And it is independent, but it's not small. I mean, the detail of the color photography in this film is so exquisite, so lush, so beautiful that it absolutely creates this space and puts us inside of it.
Well, you made the comparison to Days of Heaven. That's high praise.
Yeah.
Okay, coming up next, we pick the absolute best movies of the year.
Now it's time for Richard and I to reveal our choices for number 1, the best film of the year. And for me, that would be Almost Famous, Cameron Crowe's coming-of-age story about a 15-year-old who talks himself into an assignment from Rolling Stone magazine. Patrick Fugit plays the kid who is very serious and very dedicated and finds himself on tour with a rock band named Stillwater. Frances McDormand plays his mom, who trusts him but wants to be sure he doesn't get into trouble or drugs. And Billy Crudup is the rock god guitarist who gets a talking to on the telephone.
This is not some apron-wearing mother you're speaking to. I know all about your Valhalla decadence, and I shouldn't have let him go. He's not ready for your world of compromised values and diminished brain cells that you throw away like confetti. Am I speaking to you clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Kate Hudson has a key role as a groupie named Penny Lane, who has pledged herself to the guitarist, but has pity on this kid and helps him learn the rules of the road.
We are not groupies.
This is Penny Lane, man. Show some respect.
Groupies sleep with rock stars because they want to be near someone famous. We're here because it's music. We are Band-Aids.
Almost Famous is like a Huckleberry Finn for our time, a road picture that invokes the 1970s rock scene with a lot of detail and humor, but also identifies so completely with this kid who takes his journalism career so seriously. Musicians can see he may be a kid, but he's not kidding around. Apart from all of its other virtues, this was the single most entertaining film of the year. I actually sat there thinking how much I was enjoying it. What a good time I was having.
Absolutely. And Billy Crudup and Kate Hudson are going to become major stars. And 20 years from now, we'll look back at this as one of the first movies for them. Although Billy Crudup's done a lot of really good work in movies that haven't been appreciated as much. The cast throughout this is really good. And I like that they took the music from the 70s seriously, because there actually is good music, and they don't do the cheesy jokes about bad music from the 70s.
It's the kind of film, didn't you say on this show that while you were watching it, you were thinking, gee, I get to see it again?
Can't wait to see it again, and I'm already looking forward to that. Okay, when it was time to select my favorite film of 2000, the choice was clear. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was the most exciting and the most romantic story of the year, and it provided more pure joy than most of the alleged comedies I saw. Director Ang Lee and his writing-producing partner James Schamus have fashioned a glorious and exotic fable that plays like a Jane Austen storyline that's punctuated by some of the best martial arts sequences ever filmed. One of the sly pleasures in Crouching Tiger is that nearly every battle features at least one woman. This is really an equal opportunity film. But the most noble fighter is the great Chow Yun-fat as a legendary swordsman who doesn't know fear in battle, but is afraid to reveal his heart to the woman he loves. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is a great Western set in the Far East.
It is. It's a fabulous movie. It's on my list, too. And, you know, I talked to Ang Lee, and he told me something that really amazed me, because I assumed that the scenes where they jump from one rooftop to another and the scenes where two of them are holding onto the tops of trees and having a sword fight had to be done with computers. No. Those are the actors up there, and most of the time the real actors and not stuntmen, and they're being held by wires from construction cranes, giant construction cranes, so they won't fall and kill themselves, and they're really there, which shows you what great athletes Michelle Yeoh and Chow Yun-fat and these other people are, in addition to everything else.
Yeah, it's not a deal where they're just going to put them in against the blue screen. So we're, again, looking forward to the DVD where we're going to do the making of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
It feels more real in a way, even though you don't know why. When we come back, we'll each name all 10 titles on our list of the year's best films.
Join Roger Ebert and Richard Roeper on their film festival at sea with movie screenings and lively discussions aboard the Disney Wonder cruise ship, sailing February 1st through 4th on the Disney Cruise Line to the Bahamas with a stop at the island paradise Castaway Cay. The Ebert and Roeper Film Festival at Sea. Call your travel agent or 1-800-945-3806.
Now let's take a look at each of our complete top 10 lists, and we'll start with my number 10. It's Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous. Number 9 is Castaway, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Esteban Szabo's Sunshine is number 8, with Ralph Fiennes delivering an Oscar-worthy performance in 3 roles spanning more than 60 years of Hungarian history. At number 7, Kenneth Lonergan's You Can Count on Me. Gus Van Sant's Finding Forrester was number 6 for me. It's one of the best movies ever made about the craft of writing. Number 5 is Curtis Hanson's Wonder Boys, very funny and sweet in its own wonderfully dysfunctional way. At number 4, Rod Lurie's The Contender. Number 3 is Michael Winterbottom's The Claim, a beautiful and sometimes harsh Western about the lasting consequences of youthful actions. My number 2 film is Steven Soderbergh's Traffic, a true masterpiece. And my selection for the best movie of the year, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay, now here's my list of the year's 10 best films. Number 10, Darren Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream, with its great twin performances by Ellen Burstyn as a housewife who gets hooked on diet pills, and Jared Leto as her son addicted to heroin. Number 9, Ang Lee's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Number 8, Ed Harris's Pollock. Number 7, Stephen Frear's High Fidelity. Number 6, Tarsum's The Cell. Number 5, David Gordon Green's George Washington. Number 4, Steven Soderbergh's Traffic. Number 3, Ken Lonergan's You Can Count on Me. Number 2, Curtis Hanson's Wonder Boys, with Michael Douglas's best performance as a man who wrote one great book and now walks around the campus wearing a bathrobe. And number 1, the best film of the year, Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous. So, a couple good lists, but you know, it seemed to me like the best films this year concentrated on story and character and didn't have the visual and technical pyrotechnics of the best films last year.
Yeah, most of these movies technically could have been made 20 or 25 years ago.
Yeah.
We overlap on 5 movies, but I wouldn't mind seeing your other 5 movies again, and I bet you wouldn't mind seeing my 5 either.
That's true, including The Contender and also The Claim, which I agree with you is an awfully good movie. You can read the print versions of our 2 Best 10 lists at suntimes.com, and you can also learn more about our film festival at sea at our website, ebert-roeper-movies.com, where you can also hear our reviews. Next week, we turn the tables and pick the absolute worst films of the past year. We're calling that show, We Hated, Hated, Hated These Movies. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.